In this episode, we asked Coach Raymond, what about cravings? So, Coach Raymond, if I'm, new to carnivore or even pretty far along in my carnivore journey, and I'm just maybe getting a little bit bored with what I'm eating because I'm eating the same things all the time, what should I do about getting cravings?
Well, with cravings, I want to say that definitely is something that's going to happen early on. Obviously, during the first 2 weeks, the cravings are going to be probably the strongest when you first start carnivore, but it's going to be manageable, more manageable as you go further along carnivore without giving in. uh, Typically, we see at the 3 months mark, if there's no stress or no environmental factors or triggers, then you won't notice any cravings, any surprise cravings. But anywhere before that, you'll see little surprise cravings that comes up at you and just sneaks up at you, and all of a sudden you just crave it. Or you have this dream where you dream that we call it cardmare, that you'll dream that you've actually eaten something that you weren't supposed to, and then you wake up freaking out because you did. Um, One of the things that we have to understand about this is that sugar and carbs are like literally a drug. So the longer you stay away from it, the more it goes away. So there is in our gut microbiome, which I really believe that's what actually triggers our cravings, we have the sugar and carb microbiome. When it starts dying off or going to sleep, it sends strong signal to your head telling you, feed me. I don't want to die. I don't want to go to sleep. These urges usually come on, especially when you don't have enough fat. So that's why I tell people when those craving comes up, just run to the refrigerator, get yourself some butter, and put a tablespoon of it in your mouth right there. That craving will go away like that. It buys you about 30 minutes of time though. So during that time, I say, hey, cook yourself a real dinner and eat it. I want to give some encouragement also for people to know that the longer you stay, so I can tell you from a personal standpoint, after a year, even triggers didn't phase me. I didn't care. I don't want to eat carbs. I just had nothing to do, want to do with carbs or sugar. After the second year, I stopped liking the smell of carbs or baked goods or any of that. It just smelled horrible to me. After the third year, watching somebody else eat and enjoy carbs is it turns my stomach. So I just want to encourage, just stay away from it, just like a drug. And eventually, it's like you were a former smoker. If you were a smoker before, you'll know what I mean. And you quit for about, say 2, 3 years. You don't like the smell of smoke. That's what happens with carbs. Same thing. So give it a chance and keep going that way, and be carnivore.
Interesting. And what if I just want this something like a sweet taste? So can I just use like stevia and make like stevia sweetened whipped cream or stevia sweetened coffee? Is that is that a good way to handle cravings?
What that does is it'll wake back up those little boogers, and will actually increase cravings later on down the line. It may hit the spot at the time, as people call it, hit the spot, and they feel like they're immune to it for a couple of weeks after that. But I always notice that they'll go back to it, and eventually that leads to what we like to call the carb hole, and it just kind of gets spiraled out eventually. So, you'll start off with doing it once a week, and then all of a sudden you'll notice that you're doing it twice, and all of a sudden you're doing it daily. And you're always thinking in your mind that, oh, this is just a little bit, it's not going to affect anything. Let me let you know that's not your brain talking. That's your gut microbiome. It wants to be fed. It wants to stay alive. So it will find any tricks to convince you to have carbs or sugar, including the fake sweeteners.
So basically the fake sweetener is going to keep that addict brain or addict, the back whatever's craving that alive then. So it's better to just take them out then
Take them out.
together. Now, what about if I'm craving, something fresh, because, meat and animal products don't necessarily satisfy the craving for something fresh, like a salad or a piece of fruit, like an apple. What do I do about that?
Well, definitely not an apple. Apple's extremely sweet. A salad will wreck your stomach. You might not feel good the next day. Now, I have heard from some clients they'll do that once a week, and they said they get a little boost. Remember, this is a drug. Okay, any carbs, any sugar is just like a drug. You will have a drug-like reaction at that time, and you will feel pretty good. Even the next day, you actually might feel this little burst of energy, but that doesn't mean that it's because it's something your body needed. It's just a drug-like effect.
Mm, okay. And does the same go for like alcohol then? If I'm having a low carb alcohol, is that
Yeah, low carb alcohol. So if you target whiskey and vodka, obviously you can't have too much of that. So it's not as bad. It's not, trust me, I'm not recommending any of those, but it's not as bad if you have it occasionally with friends. It's not going, I haven't seen anybody get triggered because of alcohol. Now, that's a different story if you're an alcoholic, of course. But I've even heard from carnivores that weren't alcoholics before that seem to not want it as much either. So it does help with that. So there are people who are normal alcoholics and they just drink and eat steak and they notice they want to drink less and less. Well, of course they have less tolerance, so that's probably why. So, anyways, I don't know on that, but it's not as bad as say the sweeteners, for example. For sure.
right, right? And that was my case that, I was able to eventually just not drink alcohol, not crave it anymore. The more I ate, actually, like you said, what worked for me was eating a lot of fat. Fat for me was the only thing that ever really killed cravings all the way. So okay, what do I do if I do fall off the wagon and I cheat and eat something? Like, what's the best way to get back on track?
Yes. So first of all, that's the biggest thing. It's more like not if you'll cheat, it's when you'll cheat. More than likely, you will have the weakness where you will give in, whether situation, no matter how strong-headed you are. This is very hard. It will happen, and take that as a positive role because the last thing you want to do is kick yourself when you're down. The gut microbiome likes to do this trick. So it makes you want to think that you're feeling so guilty that you're kicking yourself, that you're down, that you don't get back up. You don't go back on the meats. And that's a trick it likes to do because it doesn't want you to get back up. It wants you to stay in that carb hole. One thing as far as tricks is to help you with that is remember, once you fall, learn from the experience, what got you in this place, and then the next day try to visit how you felt. Do you feel the carb effects, or the sugar low during the time? Sometimes it's almost immediate. I mean, immediate, like as in, a couple hours later. Um, and ask yourself that. Now, the other thing is, I would say limit yourself if you can to no more than, if you can, one cheat meal and go right back on the meat on the next meal. The danger point is not that bad on the one cheat meal to go back and not tailspin. The danger is when you have three meals in a row, then you're caught in a tailspin, and that's hard to actually go back and not and say, okay, no more carbs, no more sugar. I'm head on.
Wow, this has been so helpful. Thank you, Raymond.
Thank you, Janice.
We'll see you on the next bite.
Thank you.
Thanks.